The silence of 50,000 years ago is not the silence we know today. It is a heavy, pressurized quiet, broken only by the rhythmic groan of shifting glaciers and the predatory whistle of a sub-zero wind. You are standing on a limestone ridge in the heart of prehistoric Europe, where the air is so thin and sharp it feels like inhaling powdered glass. This is the Pleistocene, a world where every breath is earned and every shadow carries a threat. A heavy, deliberate crunch of snow shatters the stillness. From behind a screen of frost-shattered pines, a figure emerges. Your first instinct isn't curiosity, nor is it the detached wonder of a scientist. It is a visceral, gut-level jolt of pure mammalian dread. This is not the Caveman of a Saturday morning cartoon, nor a stooped, ape-like brute dragging a club. This is a human being, but one cast from a biological mold so robust, it makes the most elite modern athletes look like delicate porcelain. He is shorter than the average man of the 21st century, perhaps standing only 5'6", but his presence occupies the space of a giant. His neck is a column of muscle, as thick as a professional wrestler's thigh. His chest is a deep, resonant barrel, and his arms look like bundles of high-tension cables wrapped in weather-beaten skin. His face is a landscape of heavy ridges, a prominent brow, a wide, powerful nose, and a jaw built to withstand the torque of a life lived at the edge of extinction. In our world, we invent superheroes like the Incredible Hulk to represent the pinnacle of physical power. In this frozen valley, that archetype is simply a reality. This is the Neanderthal. As he locks eyes with you, you realize you aren't looking at a primitive ancestor, but a parallel version of humanity. One engineered by hundreds of thousands of years of brutal selection to be the ultimate survivor in a world that wanted everything dead. The shock comes not from his lack of humanity, but from the intensity of it. This was a man designed for a harsher gravity, a colder sun, and a more violent daily bread. To understand him is to understand a forgotten branch of our own family tree, the prioritized structural durability over the lightweight efficiency we carry today. To truly grasp the essence of the Neanderthal, we must look past the flesh and into the very marrow of their existence. Our own skeletons, those of Homo sapiens, are marvels of lightweight efficiency. We are built like racing bikes, designed for long-distance endurance and heat dissipation. We are the marathon runners of the primate world, optimized to shed heat and travel vast distances with minimal caloric cost. Neanderthals, however, were built like reinforced steel pipes. If you were to take a cross-section of a Neanderthal's femur or humerus, you would find that the outer wall, the cortical bone, is extraordinarily thick. In engineering terms, they possessed a much higher moment of inertia, allowing their limbs to withstand immense bending and twisting forces that would snap a modern human's bones like dry kindling. This wasn't just a random mutation. It was a structural necessity for a life of extreme physical trauma. Their internal marrow cavities were often narrower, meaning there was more dense bone tissue per square inch of their frame. Their joints were massive, providing larger surface areas for weight distribution. Imagine the mechanical advantage of a wider pelvis and thicker femoral heads. It allowed for a lower center of gravity and immense stability. Their hands were literal clamps. The fingertips were broad, the thumb was powerfully developed, and the ridges where muscles attached to the forearm suggest a grip strength capable of holding onto a struggling, half-ton animal with terrifying ease. But this power came with a staggering metabolic tax. To maintain such density, a Neanderthal required between 4,000 and 7,000 calories a day, roughly double what a modern laborer needs. This was a high-stakes evolutionary gamble. As long as the environment provided large, fatty game, mammoths, bison, and woolly rhinos, the gamble paid off. They were the apex predators of the tundra. But this structural density also meant they lacked the flexibility of sapiens. They couldn't easily switch to a low-calorie diet of seeds and berries. Their strength was their shield, but it was also a biological cage that tied them to the megafauna of the north. Every ounce of their being was an investment in pure, unadulterated power. Prehistoric hunting is often romanticized as a group throwing spears from a safe distance, but for the Neanderthal, safe distance was a luxury they rarely enjoyed. Their primary weaponry consisted of heavy wooden thrusting spears tipped with masterfully knapped flint. These were not designed to be thrown. They were designed to be held. To kill a bison with a thrusting spear, you have to be close enough to smell its breath and feel the vibration of its hooves in your own ribcage. This proximity hunting was a chaotic explosion of gore, dust, and raw physical struggle. A group would corner a massive herbivore in a ravine, and while some distracted the beast, others would move in to drive a spear into its chest cavity. Every hunt was a brush with death, a fact written clearly in their fossil record. Neanderthal skeletons are a litany of healed fractures, broken ribs, cracked skulls, and shattered limbs, a pattern of trauma that mirrors the medical files of professional rodeo riders. This wasn't a choice. It was an occupational hazard of being a species that wrestled with giants. They didn't have the luxury of bows or atlatls for much of their history. Their strategy was direct engagement, muscle against muscle, bone against bone. Yet, there is a profound revelation hidden in those scars. These injuries weren't fatal. The bones show signs of extensive healing that took months or even years. This tells us that a Neanderthal with a shattered arm was not abandoned. In the brutal logic of the wild, a non-producer is a liability. Yet these Goliaths were fed, tended with medicinal herbs, and protected by their tribe. Their physical strength was matched by a social empathy that ensured no warrior was left behind. Their scars weren't just signs of violence. They were medals of a community that refused to let its members perish. This suggests a level of tactical cooperation and social bonding that is often overlooked in the brute stereotype. The Neanderthal's rugged appearance, the flared ribcages, heavy brows, and robust jaws, was likely driven by a different hormonal baseline. Evidence suggests they were bathed in high levels of androgens, such as testosterone, from a very young age. While such levels might be considered a disorder in modern humans, for the Neanderthal, it was the factory setting that maintained their massive muscle mass, rapid recovery rates, and dense bone modeling. This internal chemistry may have granted them a hidden superpower: high-sensitivity night vision. In the dim, overcast environment of the northern latitudes, where the sun hung low on the horizon and winter nights lasted for 18 hours, the Neanderthals evolved significantly larger eye sockets and a greater visual processing center in the brain. There is a biological link between androgen levels and the health of retinal rod cells, which are responsible for low-light vision. Some evolutionary biologists hypothesize that Neanderthals possessed a superior ability to process vitamin A, further enhancing their vision in the dark. While our ancestors, the Homo sapiens, were largely diurnal, retreating to the safety of the fire at sunset, the Neanderthal may have been a master of the twilight. Imagine being a prey animal in the Ice Age. The sun has gone down, and the world is a blur of blue and grey shadows. You feel safe in the darkness, but 100 yards away, a Neanderthal is watching. To his eyes, the world isn't dark. It is a high-contrast map of heat and movement. He moves with the confidence of a creature that owns the night. Their biology was not a series of accidents. It was an exquisite, hormone-driven response to the shadows of a frozen world. They didn't just survive the cold. They adapted to the very light, or lack thereof, that the northern world offered. To ground these theories in reality, we must look at a specific grave in the Zagros Mountains of Iraq, Shanidar I. This man, who lived 45,000 years ago, was a testament to the brutality of the era and the triumph of the spirit. His remains tell a story of incredible hardship. He had suffered a crushing blow to the left side of his face when he was young, an injury so severe it blinded him in one eye and likely caused brain damage. His right arm was withered, fractured in multiple places, and had been amputated above the elbow, possibly by a primitive but effective surgical intervention, or perhaps through a traumatic accident that his tribe helped him survive. Furthermore, his legs were deformed by a debilitating bone disease, making every step an agony. In the cold, calculating world of the Pleistocene, Shanidar I should have been a ghost within a week. He couldn't hunt, he couldn't run from predators, and he couldn't process hides with his single arm. Yet, he lived to be over 40 years old, an elder in a world where many didn't see 30. For 3 decades, his tribe carried him. They chewed his food when his teeth failed. They protected him from the lions and hyenas prowling the cave mouth, and they gave him a place by the fire. This story shatters the brute stereotype. The Neanderthal body was built for war with nature, but the Neanderthal mind was built for love. They didn't just survive, they endured together, using their collective strength as a shield for the weak rather than a tool for the tyrant. This individual survived not because he was the strongest Hulk, but because he belonged to a pack that refused to surrender its humanity. If they were so strong, so compassionate, and so well adapted to the dark, why are we here and they are not? The answer is a cruel irony of evolution. The very traits that made them masters of the Ice Age made them victims of its end. As the glaciers retreated and the climate became unstable, the vast, predictable tundras turned into dense, fragmented forests. The mega herbivores, the mammoths and rhinos, began to die out. The Neanderthals' high-calorie, high-impact strategy suddenly became a liability. They were like a fleet of heavy tanks in a world that suddenly required light, fuel-efficient scout cars. Homo sapiens arrived with a different kit. We had lighter bones that required less calcium. We had a lower metabolic rate that allowed us to survive on meager rations of seeds, fish, and small game. We had atlatls, spear throwers, and eventually bows that allowed us to kill from a distance, reducing the injury rate to almost zero. We were more mobile, more socially networked, and more adaptable to a world where the big prizes were becoming scarce. We didn't defeat the Neanderthals in a great prehistoric war. We simply outlasted them. We were the budget version of humanity, and when the economy of nature crashed, the budget version survived. But as we moved into their territories, we didn't just replace them. We recognized them as kin. If you are of non-African descent, you carry up to 4% Neanderthal DNA in your genome. This legacy isn't just a curiosity, it is functional. These genes govern our immune systems, helping us fight off local pathogens. They influence our skin's resilience and its ability to handle UV light in northern latitudes. They even affect how our blood clots. The Neanderthal was absorbed into our lineage. Their grit and their Goliath genes live on in the way your body fights a virus or recovers from a wound. Every time you feel a second wind during extreme physical stress, or a surge of strength you didn't know you had, you might be tapping into a reservoir of power forged in a Siberian blizzard 50,000 years ago. We are a hybrid species, the result of a union between the endurance of the sapiens and the raw structural power of the Neanderthal. The image of the Neanderthal as an Ice Age Hulk is both a revelation and a warning. It reveals the incredible plasticity of the human form, how we can be molded by our environment into something formidable. But it also warns us about the fragility of specialization. We live in a world that is the polar opposite of theirs, cushioned by technology and climate control. We have softened. Modern humans live in bodies that are rarely tested to their limits. We have traded the Neanderthal's thick cortical bone and cable-like muscles for the ability to process complex information and build global networks. We are a species of the mind, whereas they were a species of the body. The true lesson is that there is no superior way to be human. One path emphasized the marathon, the other emphasized the wrestling match. The Neanderthal reminds us that we are just one expression of a vast human blueprint. They were not a failed experiment. They were a 300,000-year success story, a span of time far longer than we, the modern Homo sapiens, have yet managed to survive. Next time you feel small in the face of the modern world's complexities, remember the Goliath in your DNA. You come from a lineage of survivors who looked at a wall of ice and a 1,000-pound beast and didn't blink. We are the inheritors of their strength, and it is our responsibility to ensure that the story of the human tanks with hearts of gold is never forgotten. They were our brothers, our protectors, and in many ways, they are still a part of us. As we look to the stars and the future, we carry with us the bones of the past. The Neanderthal's strength was not a sign of primitive nature, but a testament to human adaptability. They proved that even in the most brutal cold, the human spirit and the human body can be forged into something invincible.